Food automation. It's here, whether we like it or not. It comes in many shapes and sizes and appears when you least expect it. It's hard not to be charmed by the novelty and convenience of what it offers. Especially since COVID, it seems that the desire for food automation and contactless dining have been expedited. One thing's for certain, and it's that automation's back, but restaurants can't decide how to do it. And why isn't it accessible in our homes now? The idea of automated restaurants isn't even new, and it's actually been around since 1895 with something called the automat. It was essentially a huge vending machine where you put in your money and you receive your freshly prepared food. Large fast food corporations are clearly pouring tons of money into AI and trying to figure out how to automate their food services, but they just can't decide which part to automate. The food preparation or the delivery. Restaurants that are automating the food delivery include a McDonald's in Fort Worth, Texas has a separate drive-through lane where customers receive their orders from a conveyor belt. Domino's has also chosen to automate delivery. Instead, you get the Neuro R2, which delivers exclusively in Houston, Texas. I'd say they're a step above the Starship delivery robots that you see on college campuses who unfortunately keep getting destroyed. On the flip side of the coin, you have companies like Chipotle that are trying to automate the food preparation. This October, Chipotle invested in a startup called Hyphen. Hyphen makes burrito bowls and salads only for digital orders and can precisely measure and dispense ingredients into the bowls for packaging. Hypothetically, this will cut on labor costs and make everything more consistent. But these are all still in trial. None of these are in the real world actually happening yet. But if you want to try an actual restaurant that is real, that has automated their food preparation, you'll have to head an hour outside of Chicago to Naperville, Illinois, to Sweet Green's Infinite Kitchen. You'll find a huge robot taking up the entire wall of the restaurant, and it's assembling your salad bowl right in front of you. It's worth noting that the food still has to be prepped by a human being and put in the machine, and there's also a person at the end of the line adding finishing touches. So it's not 100% automated, but it's pretty darn close. Of course, these services are great for people who can afford to eat out, but I'm really more interested in food automation at home. How can I make my life easier? I feel like we all have our own ideas about what we think food automation at home should look like.
Can you order tea, sir?
Now that should not have happened.
And is it even realistic? And how would it even work? Ultimately, how can we trust companies that offer us something too good to be true? Have we already forgot Juicero? A $400 smart Wi-Fi connected juicer, I'm not joking, which launched in 2016. Juicero's produce packs were essentially a giant ketchup packet of fruit and vegetable pulp that you could just scoop right out of the bag and squeeze with your own hands, which is wild considering that the company claimed you needed their super-powered press to cold press with 4 tons of force to get the juice out of the bags. What? Even if there was a way to automate cooking at home, would the product even be helpful, or would it be selling more of an idea rather than an actually helpful tool? In a perfect world, we'd have a single smart home appliance that is accessible and affordable, makes great food, and can automate each step of the cooking process, not just part of it. This left me with more questions than answers, so to clear up the confusion, spoiler, it's not going to, but I'm heading to CES to discover what may or may not be in my kitchen in the future. CES is home to the wildest tech in the world, and that's why I'm excited to see what they have in the food hall. In previous years, Moley Robotics brought their self-contained kitchen with a two-handed robotic system on a mobile platform that has a computer vision system. It can not only prepare, but also cook and clean up after a meal. With over 2,000 recipes in its library, it's the hypothetical dream kitchen. The majority of interesting food automation tech I did see at CES was primarily vending and commercial machinery. There were some home appliances, but not as many as I was hoping, and the ones that were there were less all-encompassing and a little bit too hyper-specific into one type of cooking. Most of them feel like things you'd find in a hotel lobby. There were some traditional home appliances that had smart features, which is cool, but I'm still looking for that all-in-one device. However, I did start to notice some reoccurring themes that left me a little worried. Many of the smart ovens centered their devices around selling a meal kit or a subscription service, which I feel like should be a perk and not the primary focus. My concern is that you have no idea if any of these companies will even exist in 2 years, and so If the product can't stand alone without a subscription service, it's probably not a very good product. Some had chips or codes which you then scan from a recipe card to set the cooking mode and cooking time for the subscription meals, but that makes it feel more like a smart reheater rather than a standalone cooking device. Also, these products were expensive, and for people who are early adopters who might have money to throw at something like that, that's great. But an average consumer will not want to spend 4 or 5 times the amount just to get some AI-powered machinery. The market for these is honestly the Wild West, so it might be a while before you find something that's actually affordable. A lot of these devices just look gimmicky, and I don't think people will take them seriously. They can't decide if they want to be a showstopper or a practical appliance. I can't see this at my parents' house. It doesn't make sense. My mom will not have a spaceship on her counter. It's just not happening. Keeping that stuff in mind and thinking of my 3 things that I wanted, which was accessibility, affordability, good food, and automation, I don't think I saw anything that really checked all the boxes. But out of all the products I did demo, there was one that met most of my criteria. So Brisket is a smart grill with an integrated app, and it seems to make the notoriously time-consuming and tricky task of smoking meat completely automated, which is huge, if true. Wait, I think that's the wrong show. We'll come back to Brisket. So I didn't find what I was looking for at CES, but after CES, I did find one of the most insane TikToks that I think I've ever seen.
I'm about to use this kitchen robot for the first time ever. We'll be making us bacon cheeseburger pasta. Container A, noodles. Slider in there. Ground beef, onion, garlic, container B. Next is our spices. They are all loaded up. What the
The Nimble Home Private Chef Robot. It feels like something out of a dream. A smart programmed robot with hundreds of recipes that's totally customizable. This can't be real. You gather all of your ingredients, put them in different containers along with spices, and you let the robot cook it. What's the catch? It's $1,500. Their advertising campaign on TikTok is a little aggressive. Don't know why. As you can tell by some of the hardware, it needs some refinement. But the idea's there, so it's definitely more along the lines of what I've been searching for. Rather than a meal kit, you're using ingredients that you already have at home, which is great. Granted, you still have to prepare the ingredients and spices beforehand to put into the containers, and it's a little more elaborate than just heating up a frozen meal, but it's definitely more realistic than the Molly kitchen robot, and it could totally fit on your kitchen counter. So with a little bit of time and a little more development, I do think that something like this has the potential to meet all 3 of my requirements. So this is where it gets tricky, because apparently other people had the same idea, which led me down a wild rabbit hole of multiple other extremely similar home cooking robots, Nosh and Raikou. They're all generally a countertop appliance that have an induction burner, a pot, mechanical stir, ingredient dispensers, a camera, and they're armed with a recipe catalog. How interesting. And you guessed it, they're all over $1,000. They're pretty inaccessible since most of them are taking pre-orders right now, and some of them don't say they'll even ship until late this year. So I can't really get my hands on them. I'd love to try one of these myself. We tried to reach out and we didn't hear back. Like I said, the idea is there for these, and I think they all have really big potential. I think they just need more development. Right now, they're mostly marketing to families who are just trying to save time and not having to cook every day, but I think they're really missing out on the wider scope of cooking accessibility and aiding people with disabilities or mobility issues. They also could make cooking more approachable for people that don't have the skill set and so much more. So I felt like I couldn't wrap up this video without testing at least one automated appliance, and I'm really bummed that I couldn't get my hands on anything. But then I remembered that I know someone who has the AI smoker from CES. Pretty convenient.
So like Mariah, I also love to cook a lot, and now that I'm officially a dad, I obviously love to grill and barbecue all the time. And while she was making this video, I happened to be testing an AI-powered smart smoker called the Brisket. It's actually the same one she saw at CES, and I think it covers the 3 qualifiers that she was looking for. So far, everything I've made on the Brisket has turned out fantastic. So I've been describing the Brisket as kind of like barbecue plug and play. And all of that comes through automation. I set a temperature, grab whatever I'm cooking, add a little seasoning, and just plug in the meat with this probe right here. And then after that, you just just go about your day. I can check in the app to see the progress with this neat temperature graph. I can make changes to temperatures from wherever, or maybe I just never even open the app. The grill will notify me whenever I need to physically do something like refilling the pellet hopper. And if I wanted to try out a new recipe, they just announced a new chatbot named Vera that helps make even more decisions. Let's say I want to make pulled pork. I just tell Vera what I plan on cooking, how many people I'm feeding, and what flavors I might be interested in, and it will create an entire recipe and send the information straight to the grill so it'll all be ready to go. And despite having all of these smart features, don't worry, it can still act completely as a standalone smoker with all the controls right on the device. And lastly, Mariah was looking for a device that's accessible. The brisket makes the act of barbecue extremely beginner friendly. When I first bought my manual smoker, it took me a bunch of different tests to finally feel comfortable using it. But the main thing holding this back is its price. Starting at around $1,000, you're certainly paying a premium for the smart features of it versus other models. As much as I love the brisket, I have two big gripes about it. I wish it would give me a low pellet warning instead of just an empty hopper warning. And I think the chatbot could be more beginner friendly. It's great at answering questions that you ask it, but if you don't know what questions to ask, it's not going to prompt you for it. Maybe I don't know if I want a point or a flat part of a brisket, or if I want to feed 10 people, how big of a piece of meat should I get? So if you've been looking to make some rad barbecue, but have always been worried about the steep learning curve, and you're okay with spending $1,000, I actually think the brisket's pretty awesome.
While the brisket's pretty great, it's not exactly the dream appliance that I was looking for when I started this video. It's a little bit too specific of a use case to use it in everyday cooking. Based on what I saw at CES, obviously the real money is invested into corporate and industrial solutions because they're the ones who are willing to spend the big money. It's more likely we'll see a fully automated White Castle before we get an all-in-one home appliance. That being said, I am still optimistic about the future of automation technology in our homes, and I think it will find its way there, but it might take some time. But when it does, I want to be the first to try it. Thanks for watching, and if you like this weird tech, you'll definitely want to watch our CES video, and let me know what other weird tech you want me to deep dive into. But until then,